Thank you for tuning in. This is our second video after the introduction and coming to the TCP header again. And as I discussed just last mentioned, the TCP header is a kind of a very important to know and to be considered to be very important. And so many interviews and everywhere will have a if you have a good understanding, it will be very helpful to discuss to know how these thing works actual environment. And so coming to the first page, and here you can see the transmission control protocol, full form of the TCP. And as you can see, this is my first point I noted here, that is the transport layer. So what I want to meant to be say that this is a transport layer protocol, and we have protocols. We have protocols in application, we have protocols in presentation layer, we have protocol in session layer, and we have protocols or working, not protocols, anything we can say. It can be certain versions of session carries certain format, presentation carries certain presentation carries the format, session like a time or application, what sort of service is coming, and then transport layer, and then network layer, and data layer, then physical layer. So the seven layers we already know as a discussion. So the TCP or the UDP contains in the transport layer. We could say it's the center of the OSI layer, or the heart of the OSI. It carries with whether it is identifying which type of protocol it is using. So based on that, the transmission, the end behavior of the communication will change. So whatever it is coming from application layer, you can see this one, whatever coming from application layer, whether it is HTTP or any TCP protocols. HTTP, we have HTTP for that, we have Telnet for that, Telnet remote accessing protocol, and we have SSH, that is also a remote accessing protocol with a secure way. And we have what we could say a lot of protocol, SMTP or protocols which is related to this one, HTTPS, or so many other protocols which is related to TCP, and especially the TCP. UDP is also the DHCP, DNS, or so many other protocols which is related to the UDP as well. So one which is coming as TCP has a lot to do in the network. A lot of possibilities are there with the help of TCP. So most of the communication we could say that is around the network, it will be TCP. Why? Because we need a security to pass through the network, and it comes in the transport layer of the OSI layers. And so the main purpose is it is not generating from the top what in the transport layer. So the next point indicate that it is what it is receiving, or it is making the transmission or making the changes, one which is coming from the application, not from the lower layers. I could say the lower layers are passing to the physical layers, what one which is, or if I'm browsing, think that I'm browsing, if I'm do want to download some sort of data, so that time I'm using HTTPS or the connection with the to any sort of proxy or any kind of devices, or any to my Wi-Fi. I will connect to my Wi-Fi, and the communication will pass through the network. So the thing is, I'm connecting to the application, whatever data that is coming from the application layer, and we are manipulating, or we are taking that data, and we are changing that data into the user's need. If it is needed, we want to send it very fastly, so that time the user manipulation is actually happening in the transport layer. So based on that, the programmers, we will program certain parameters, and we will set certain values, and based on that, the transport layer, this information is loaded. So the traffic is treated, we could say, that is the better term, the traffic is treated. So that is the main behavior that we want to use to say something like one second. Coming to the third point, we could see here, so this point is very familiar if you are very much familiar with the transport layer. Whenever the data coming from the application layer, that will be in big formats, that it could be bigger, the size will be bigger and more bigger than the expected size of the capability of the devices, whether it is a router or a switch, or it can be a server also, anything. It will be bigger. So the bigger data, we want to divide it into smaller pieces, although it cannot carry that much amount of packets. So what it will do, so it will divide it into pieces, or divide it into chunks. We use it, say the terms chunks or segments, the data. So we also say the data in the transport layer is in the form of segments. Segments means we are dividing into pieces, and we are making it a smaller portion that can carry. So what we are doing is, in order to like to eat by hold the things together, we are taking the small pieces so we can eat easier, right? The same purpose we are using here as well, in order to pulling all the data together at once. It may create the loss of data, it may create the loss of the or the bandwidth utilization, or it may create the memory utilization. So that thing can be avoided if you divide it into smaller chunks, and that we are going to do in that way. And the next thing is the same point I just repeated: segment, TCP segments, or we could say, I'm sorry, it will not work. 1 second. Okay, so what it is actually is the TCP. Whenever the TCP packet after receiving, you can see here, it is going to the IP. The IP that is happening in the network layer, we have nothing to do with it now, but the TCP is encapsulating or covering over the IP. So in order to see what is inside, which IP is inside, first of all, we want to get through the TCP. All the TCP informations are okay, then only it will get into the next. That means the encapsulation information we want to decapsulate in order to see the IP. What is the IP, or what is the MAC address inside that? Everything will be encapsulated by the TCP first. And this is for you, just for your knowledge. It could vary, but because 24 bytes is considered to be the lower value, and it can be more than a particular size as well. But there will be specific MTU values based on every devices. And usually the TCP header only which can carry which is up to 24 bytes, and it can be varied also. So don't think in your mind is a fixed value. And TCP segment, next thing is TCP segment. That means the TCP segment means actually is not so what the data in the transport layer, we will call that a segment. Okay, it can be UDP or TCP, this is not matter. So the TCP segment, it's a combination of TCP header plus data. So it is not only TCP header plus data. The data contains the IP information, the MAC address information, everything I will mention as data chunk over here. So a piece of data as well as a TCP header will be always with each and every pieces of the TCP. So up to this is up to, like, this is enough for this video. I will get into the packet header and how it treating the packet more efficiently and how it is working more perfectly. We'll discuss in the next video, and that is very important to know what is happening in each step by step and each field of the TCP. That is very good to know, and that if we understood that sort of understanding in a particular way, it will be very helpful to troubleshoot the real time scenarios or topologies.